you guys. Sorry this morning's video is a little later than normal. My mental health walk went a little bit late today. I was really in a groove and I did like a mile and a half where I normally would cut it at a mile. Anywho, you guys don't care because the video's here now. And what are we talking about? Pucking Wild. It's the second Jacksonville Rays book. So the first book is called Pucking Around. And it caused a huge stir and controversy and a lot of backlash because, okay, if you're not familiar with what these books are, they're by Emily Rath, and they are hockey romances. And Pucking Around is a why choose hockey romance. So there are 3 players on the Jacksonville Rays and 1 girl who are in a monogamous relationship, polyamorous monogamous relationship. And that wasn't really what caused the controversy, so much as some people's reaction to this book. And it wasn't just specifically this book. I'm not going to do that to Emily Rath. There's been an influx of hockey romance recently. I'm reading another hockey romance called Unsteady. You know, I read that whole L. Kennedy, 8-book series. That was all hockey romance. Hockey romance is having its moment, almost like dragons. And women who love these books are very passionate about hockey romance and started going to more hockey games and things like that. Notably, there was a specific TikTok influencer. I'm not going to name her, but there were people who say she was taking it just a little bit too far. But she was being encouraged by the team. I believe it was the Seattle Kraken, flew her out there, and she had signs and, knew the man's names and things like that. And yeah, some people say she took it too far, but now we were dealing with the situation of sexualizing or dehumanizing these hockey players who have whole married relationships and families and children and things like that. Like, the guys playing the hockey on the team are not the guys from the books. They're not. And there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes. I feel like people can get a little too far with that. I've also been seeing some drama along the same lines with the Starfall balls. Now, these Starfall balls are typically like SJM, Sarah J. Maas, typically ACOTAR-based balls. And it's fun to dress up like a fairy in beautiful costumes and go dance and have fun and mingle with people who are passionate about the same things as you. Where people start to get a little weirded or controversial is when you are playing very specific role-played characters and enacting very specific scenes. Then you get into an issue of consent of everybody there, as well as, you do realize it's a lot. We're not going to get into all of it, but yeah. So this first book caused quite the stir, and this is the second book, Pucking Wild. Now, Pucking Wild is not a why choose. There's 1 male character and 1 female character in the romance in Pucking Wild. We are introduced to them in the first book, Pucking Around. So Rachel, who is the main female character from the first book, has a best friend named Tess, and Tess is a little bit older, as well as married in a terrible marriage, but nonetheless, she is Rachel's best friend, and she comes to visit and meets Ryan, and Ryan is one of the younger players on the Rays. He's only, I believe, 23, and Tess is 8-ish years older than him. I'm getting the feeling there's a large age gap where she's older. I don't think they specifically say the ages, but it is an age gap romance. with her being the older one, and more experienced one, the one who's coming out of a divorce. Because yes, in this book, she has decided to divorce her husband. It has been a long time coming. They have a awful, awful marriage. And she is in Jacksonville staying with Rachel and her partners to get away, as well as do the whole divorce proceedings. And she works for her ex-husband's law firm, and she needs space from that. She's on a sabbatical from that. So Mars, who is Elmari, one of Rachel's partners who plays for the Rays, hires her to head up his charity that he has recently made a giant donation to, and realized that it's a very small charity and not well organized. He needs somebody to head this charity up. He hires Tess. So Tess is now in Jacksonville for the time being, working as well as living. And Ryan's real excited to hear that. He has just recently gotten injured, so he is not playing right now. He is healing up his knee. And that's been kind of mentally difficult for him, because as an athlete, you want to be playing. You never want to be the athlete that's on the sideline or injured or any of that. So he is struggling with that. And they end up living in Mars's house because Mars and Jacob and Caleb and Rachel have all moved in together. The whole poly group from the first book have all moved in together. Now Mars has a house that is unused, and Tess and Ryan, there's a lot of names. Tess and Ryan move into said house. She's kind of helping him out with his injury. She needs a place to stay, and he's there and making her feel more safe. Romance ensues, of course. The trope is definitely age gap, but also like one is way more experienced than the other one. I liked it. It was a really fun ride. It was not 5-star plus, but I still gave it 5 stars because it kept my attention the whole time. Didn't have any issues with like not finishing it or wanting to like it kept my attention. It was good. The scenes were very spicy. Like the spice in this is not just your typical rom-com spice. It is, I would almost call it a spicy romance. Instead of a rom-com or a sports romance, I would label it like a spicy romance because of the amount and intensity of the spice. It's getting 5 chili peppers from me. Even though it's only 1 and 1, where there were so many more things going on in the first book, it was spicy as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a good book. I'm reading Unsteady right now, which is another hockey romance. It is not spicy yet, but I am not quite halfway through it. I don't know if it's going to get spicy or not. I'll keep you updated. And yeah, that is my review of Pucking Wild. I thought that it was very good. Enjoyed the heck out of it. Didn't love it quite as much as Pucking Around, but it was still really, really good. And you can't chase that feeling of the first, book if you really, really love it. I am bad about doing that. But yeah, I love you guys so much. I hope that you have an amazing, amazing week. I will see you on Wednesday. I'm not sure if we're going to be reviewing Unsteady, or I'm also reading on my Kindle a book that I believe is called Forget Me Not. It is about a wedding planner. I'm also going to be reading Powerless. I just purchased it. It's all over my TikTok. I am so nervous that the hype is not going to be lived up to, but I'm gonna do it. I'm reading Powerless. Is that my first fantasy of the month? No, I read Dowry of Blood. And I would kind of consider Dowry of Blood fantasy or sci-fi. But yeah, so I'm excited to read Powerless, though I am nervous because you guys know how high I hold my fantasy novels. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you on Wednesday. See you then.